Now, one thing we do know is that there's a lot of gents who are able to pull women naturally. There's a lot of gents who actually have women gravitating towards them effortlessly, regardless of what they have and regardless of what they possess. I'm talking about gents who are able to actually break the script when it comes to attraction. And when I speak about these kind of gents, many of you will actually relate because many of you probably are that type of guy. But the thing is, you've probably heard a lot of women speak about the type of man that they want. And usually when they speak about the type of man that they want, you're going to hear something very common. You're going to hear the materialistic things, which is very common in terms of the type of men that they want. And there's nothing wrong with them mentioning those things, and there's nothing wrong with them wanting those things. But the problem starts when a lot of gents fixate only on that. And when I say a lot of gents only fixate only on that, now usually when a lot of gents start to mold themselves based on that particular fixation that they heard in terms of those materialistic aspects, a lot of gents, when they start to mold themselves towards that, they start to build themselves, or they start to try and equip themselves to fit that kind of particular guy. And that is why I always say you got to pay attention to what she actually responds to as opposed to what she actually said. Now, I'm not saying what she's saying is entirely wrong, but most of the time what usually happens is that because her actions can actually validate her words or expose what she's actually drawn to. That's one thing you need to understand. Her actions can actually validate her words or expose what she's really drawn to. And this is exactly where the so-called unspoken guy comes into play. The so-called unspoken guy is that same guy we talk about who's able to draw women in, who's able to attract women effortlessly. And you need to understand these type of gents might not possess everything when it comes to those materialistic aspects. Some of these gents most of the time are really not even doing much in life, but yet they're able to draw women effortlessly. And the thing is, there's nothing special about what they're really doing. If you really pay attention, there's nothing special about what they're doing. But these are gents who just don't follow the script. Because when you really think about this, all of this just comes down to one thing: attitude. It comes down to attitude at the end of the day. Now, all of this comes down to your attitude, because your attitude becomes your demeanor, and your demeanor becomes how you actually carry yourself, which eventually becomes your character. Now, whether you like it or not, women will always respond to a man with character, and they'll always respond to a man with a unique character. Not gents who are continuously following the herd, not gents who are continuously following the script. If you're a gent that's following the script but with a different type of character, that's a different ball game. That's what separates you from the pack. Because you need to understand one thing is that gents who naturally have women who gravitate towards them, their character always exposes that they are genuinely sure of themselves. Their character always shows that they don't need to continuously prove their value over and over again. They don't need to be chasing in order to prove a so-called worth. Now, that doesn't mean they are arrogant. It has nothing to do with arrogance, but it has everything to do with understanding that how attraction works, and it has everything to do with understanding that they are completely sure of themselves from inward before it becomes something outward. Now, even if you call it arrogance, even if you call it confidence, you can even call it the best of both. It really doesn't matter, because it's very, very difficult to ignore a man who's authentically sure of himself. Because at the end of the day, there's not many of them, regardless of what you possess in life. That you need to understand. You and I both know as gents, there's a lot of guys out there who move differently. There's a lot of guys out there who are authentic in so many ways that in terms of attraction, it is something that is so simple towards them. So you need to understand one thing. In terms of being that guy think about it. Even if the relationship comes to an end between this guy and a particular woman, even if the relationship comes to an end, the imprint is so big, the impact of the imprint is so big to the point that even if she moves on with another guy, sometimes what usually happens is she'll even go back and cheat with that particular guy because of the fact that she wasn't attracted to what is around him or what he actually possesses, but she was actually responding to who he really is as a full-on man.